To what would you give each moment in a day if you knew that you only get 4 unique and different days to shine? It is such an arbitrary number, 4, to be sure. But the parameters are set. You know the day of your execution or of your deliverance. This is a trial by combat. It's a day to define you, a day to test you, a day where all the torturous hours of training come together, where it's you, your gun, your preparation, your teammates, and your tenacity on display, dissected by your enemies, with your skill, your will to win, weighed and measured. It is your chance to prove to the world that in this small slice of place and time, that you above all others are to be remembered, to be respected. In the sport of paintball, it will come down to Sunday, the holy day, when you get to earn your place in the game. And in 2021, you get 4 of these. So this is the story of many moments, but of 1 year of what happens on 4 Sundays.
They know it, right? Smart fucking paintball.
Malice is just saving the day again, and Malice gets a crossfield shot as well.
Guys couldn't make the corner like I was as consistent.
They get Konstantin Fedorov back. They have Todd Martinez as the coach. Randy Smith is intent on building a championship team.
I got the chills, and I was like, we're going to win this tournament.
Pressure's all on them because they're number 1 team. We're the 20th place team.
Level undefeated, the number 1 seed in their division.
They have everything to lose, and we have nothing to lose.
No one can touch Dynasty here. That was a complete masterclass.
You go to bed dreaming you get to play Impact on Sunday and send them home. Then you dream you get to play Houston Heat. Who's the other Titan? Dynasty. There's no better feeling than going up against the big Titans.
Welcome to Go Sports Live. I'm Matty Marshall, and I got Blake Yarber here, one of our MVPs from San Diego Dynasty World Cup. Amazing performance from him and the team. We're going to be diving in, talking to Blake about his history, about that performance at World Cup, also about the big news, picking up Archie Montemayor. So, and some young kids too. There's a lot going on with San Diego Dynasty. Blake was brought in as an owner this year. Blake, things have been going really well for you and the boys, dude. It's been really cool to see. I mean, I think 2012 is when you got started with the team. So we got a decent amount to talk about today. But first of all, you did move away from us in California, and I know you're going through a good old-fashioned Michigan snowstorm right now. I'm just glad to have you. Are you staying warm out there?
No. It's all right. I'm learning to adapt. Walking through the snow, trying to become local.
Yeah, you're a woodsy guy. I've been on enough backpacking trips with you to know that you are an absolute beast out in the mountains. So I'm sure you're going to do fine out there. And if it makes you feel any better, it was raining cats and dogs all day today. It's actually currently raining right now here in Southern California, and it's a little bit cold. So if it makes you feel just a touch better, so let's jump into it, man. Let's talk about World Cup because it's so fresh. I do want to kind of talk about your history, though, because it's such a cool story, because you have a unique origin story. It's not like those origin stories where you get a guy coming up the ranks. He's been grinding for years in the divisional ranks, and then it comes to a tryout. And I mean, you did grind and you did come. There was a try, but your story is a very unique pro origin story. So I definitely want to tell that story. But let's talk about World Cup. I mean, it's got to feel, I don't know. How does it feel? You tell me how it feels. How does it feel right now?
It's refreshing. It's refreshing to, we went through the year saying that we could, we came out of last year's World Cup with a win. So we came into the first event with the same squad, and we lost to X Factor by a point late in the match. And, that was frustrating. And then we go into the next event, and props to X Factor, right? We played them in the finals in World Cup. So it's not like we lost against a chump team as X Factor, which we met 3 times this year. Then we go into the second event, and we lose Tyler, and our bodies were just falling apart. And so we missed the finals again. We make it to the semifinals. So, it's frustrating because we feel like we're right there. We just can't get over that hump, and then come into Philadelphia and Chicago, and World Cup, and we win both of those, where we thought we would be all year.
Yeah, so I had Marcelo on in our last show, and he was, and I was saying, like, look, Dynasty loves to make it exciting. I mean, it's just from the very, very first World Cup in the origin of the team, 21 years ago. I was there for that, and I watched that all go down. I was playing that tournament, hoping that they would stalemate, to be honest, because that would have been a lot better for us, and we didn't want either Aftershock or this new upstart, young team called Dynasty to win. And then there was all this chaos. It's always been dramatic for San Diego Dynasty. And then, sure enough, this was I thought a pretty dramatic start to the year because, you guys come off a World Cup victory, but it was, the COVID year. We had 2 events, and it's also quite the budding rivalry here. Was not budding, but it's been going on for a long period of time, but with San Antonio X Factor, because you played them in the finals 3 times in the past 5 events, and they knocked you out of the tournament at the first event. But that first event, the fact that you're coming off the high of winning World Cup, and then you lose your coach, get a new one. You have some roster changes, dealing with Ryan's injury. And there was kind of a lot going on. You guys skated in through the prelims, almost didn't make it. And then you make it and get knocked out early. So it was, I thought, a pretty dramatic start to the year and it just makes the finish of the year that much more crazy. But just kind of take me back a little bit, I guess, before we kind of get into talking about the triumphant win at World Cup. But because you mentioned it, that crazy start to the year, because we were kind of, I remember talking to Ryan, and I brought this up with Marcelo, but we were walking around with the kids looking at some lights with the families. And I'm like, yeah, so what do you think about this player or that? And how's the team looking? And, we're just kind of, chopping it up, talking shop. Spica was there. And he's like, yeah, dude, it's coming off the World Cup victory, bro. We'd have to cut someone to pick anybody up. And I just really think the team's looking really good right now. And I'm like, I can't argue that. Team's looking great. You guys came off a World Cup victory, and you got a great coach who's been coaching you guys for years, and you got all these veterans on the team, and everyone's healthy. Yeah, Ryan, everything looks great. And then I get a text from him maybe 3 weeks before the event, and he's like, hey, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about that guy? And I'm like, why in the living hell is Ryan asking me what I think about these players right now 3 weeks before the event? And then all of a sudden, just I guess all hell had broken loose behind the scenes, and of all of those, I understand all those moves, and then injuries you can't. But it was just, I thought it was a really dramatic start for the year for you guys. For you, what was it like?
Right. It was great. Coming off that World Cup win, off of, I just don't agree that the COVID 2020 World Cup win has an asterisk on it, because all the teams were there. Everybody's fighting for players. That's just what you have to do. So you show up with who you have. You have injuries throughout the year, and it just doesn't change with the COVID side. I just disagree that there's an asterisk to that. Anybody that wins that event doesn't feel that there's an asterisk to it, and it just so happened to be us. So coming into the next event, we still have all the same bodies. We're still strong. Ryan kind of fell apart going into that first event. But here we go, running into X Factor again. And actually, we ran into X Factor 4 of the 5 last events, and all of them were deciding matches, right? 3 finals. You got World Cup, and then Chicago, and then we lost to them early on in that first event, and they knocked us out, right? That's impressive.
Well, it made it interesting because they got one back on you. So we're working on 4 Sundays right now, and kind of going down the rabbit hole on the stories of each one of these huge days. The most important day, the only really important day, because that's where everything gets decided for the top teams. And yeah, just such a crazy rivalry with you guys. You come off that the victory in overtime in 2020, and then you guys head right into another, and then fate lets you guys play again, but this time it's in the wild card round. And if you lose in the wild card round, it's frustrating, because if you're a top team and you want to be relevant and you want to win the series title, and you start out the year at the 10th place, it doesn't really get, other than being Heat and not making Sunday. If you're a top level squad that expects greatness every single time you step out there at a big paintball tournament, that's about as frustrating as it gets. But it made the story that much more interesting when we will look back, as we're looking back on this now. I mean, even at the time, I'm like, okay, here we go. We got a rematch from the last event at World Cup, but instead for first and second, you know, these guys are playing for their lives in this tournament here, bright and early, the very first set Sunday morning in the wild card round. And no one really on paper expected either you or X Factor to be in the damn wild card round, because we're talking about the teams that just took first and second at the World Cup just a couple months ago. So, and then again, it's like if you were going to write this into a novel or a movie, it would have been perfect because in the end, you guys end up taking 10th, but then you storm back and have this, you know, this kind of miraculous and hard fought end to the year, which we'll get to in a second. But just you personally, you're a really fun loving and awesome, like bright spirit, but you're also a really hardworking dude. And when you need to be a beast, like you're totally willing to summon that beast. So if I could just shift gears real quick and kind of, because I think this plays into I think it plays into you on the field, you know, the story of your game and how you play the game of paintball. I think you know, you being willing to summon that beast when you need it. And some people have a problem with that. Some people have to tone that beast back. And that's kind of that constant story of, you know, are you a hyper aggressive guy that we need to tone back a little bit? Or are you a really smart analytical player that thrives in a certain type of chaos, but we need you to push the envelope a little bit, you know? And it's like trying to find that you know, that beautiful Zen kind of threading of both of those things, regardless of the position that you play, is kind of the important thing. But you know, it's like you being able to summon that creative beast out there, and you were just in the zone at World Cup. You've been in the zone for a while, and we saw I mean, you've always been, obviously you don't stay on a team like Dynasty. You don't get on a team like Dynasty unless you're a great paintball player. But to stay on the team for as long as you have, and now to emerge into this elite threat, it's just been really kind of cool to see your evolution. So before we kind of jump in and talk a little bit about how you've been looking at the game this year, you know, your history in the game, let's just talk about how you address the mentality and methodology in your mind of how you've gotten into this groove as an attacker.
Right. You know, we all grow up in life. We're playing cops and robbers or whatever. You know, you're recreating real life. You know, so anyways, we start to play these sports, and these sports are really just a recreation of life, you know, and in life, it's life or death. So you come into these sports, and, you know, some guys, they put a lot of time into it and they don't succeed, and that's okay with them. But to me, it's not okay, right? This is life or death. I'm applying all of myself into these games. So why am I just going to leave it on the table and then walk away okay with that? I'm going to throw everything I got. You know, it's you or me, and it ain't going to be me.
Yeah, dude. Witness me, Blake. We witnessed you, bro. We witnessed you. We definitely saw it. That was so good. I love that movie too. And I couldn't figure out what you were doing for a little bit. I'm like, because obviously I'm far away and we would catch a glimpse of it. But then when I walked over there real quick and you were like, witness me, and I was like, hell yeah, Blake. Love that movie. Love that methodology. That's the way to get yourself in the moment right there. Yeah. Go out for blood at World Cup. But yeah, I love that because I look at the game the same way. To me, I started playing paintball because, like, yeah, dude, cops and robbers. I grew up on a canyon, the whole, you know, just pretending to play war in the woods. I mean, I loved that. Was my favorite thing to do when I was a kid. So when I found out that paintball was a thing, I was like, oh my God, you can go do this and shoot projectiles at each other and everyone walks away okay at the end of it. And it hurts a little bit, just enough for you to give a shit. Like, this is perfect. And I just fell in love with it immediately and didn't really want to play any other sports after that because I had to get a job to, you know, afford to play paintball in the beginning. But I 100% agree with you that this game and having that mindset, and apparently you brought that to whatever it was, but I feel like in paintball, it's a little bit easier to jump into that than some other games. Like, I love golf. I loved baseball, but I wasn't necessarily, you know, like I wasn't playing baseball for life or death, you know, I mean, also I was a kid, but paintball, it's like you're being shot at, your brain just, the switch flips and you're in that, you know, that flow state. That's why I love the game. So, but the thing is to get your brain to perform optimally in that flow state is a really difficult thing to do. You know, I mean, there's guys that have tried their entire careers to be playing paintball as well as you've been playing it recently, and they've never been able to get there, you know? So and you've become a really big part. And this is, I think, why they extended their hand. One, everybody loves you, but Dynasty is not a club. It's definitely a pro paintball team, and they don't just keep people around because they're super sweet dudes. Like you have to be an integral component of the machine, because at the end of the day, the machine doesn't care because the machine has to be productive. And so you're a big part of that. Again, it's easier because you're a good dude and everybody loves you, but because you become such a brutal killer out there. So let's maybe talk a little bit about the origin story, because where you came from, because you definitely did kind of tear up real quick. So, I mean, I've told the story before, but we got you on the show for a reason. So I want you to tell this origin story here.
Yeah, but I want to go back to that flow state,
Okay. Yeah.
And it was really nice to watch that Michael Jordan documentary, because I think he's the prime example of this. The flow state doesn't come from turning the switch on, right? And Michael Jordan was a proponent of this. You leave the switch on. You just tackle everything with the switch on, and you got to practice that over and over until the flow state just happens. You can't just turn on the switch and flow state happens. You got to be chasing that thing all the time. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been playing a lot of paintball. I've been going to Europe. I've been going to Australia. I've been going to Colombia. I've been going to Mexico. I've been staying here in the U.S. There's a lot of paintball I've been playing, trying to get that switch to stay up. So
but how do you maintain that? How do you maintain that over so much time? I mean, you're an energetic guy, but for some people, it's like keeping that switch on. It kind of messes with their head a little bit. I mean, when you do and do not turn that switch off. I mean, some people love the game because you go and you just leave it all out there. Like, when specifically are you talking about leaving it on? Just for practices, tournaments, your regular life? Just how are you kind of looking at that?
Everything.
That specific switch. Everything?
Everything. I don't know. It's, I had some troubles with my next door neighbor in Los Angeles, and it's a crazy story, right? This guy was doing methamphetamines. He comes after me, and I just learned that you can't wait, right? You don't know when your last day is going to be. So you just got to chase it. You just got to turn that switch off and run your life that way. Just turn the switch on, not off. But I don't know. I just feel like I'm running my life that way. I got married.
Yeah.
Turn that switch up, baby. My wife's been great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. You did the move, you got married, and things have been going outstanding for you. Brought in again as an owner to Dynasty. You have been traveling to all these places. How much do you think, because I've always said to guys that have the opportunity, younger pros, as they're kind of coming up the ranks, trying to become elite, I'm like, hey, man, if you can, go play as many paintball tournaments as you possibly can with other teams, other places. Go if you have, again, if that's available to you. If somebody offers you to, the chance to do that, you should go do that, because the more chances that you get to be in a position where you're the hired gun or you're that mercenary that comes over and everyone's like, oh, this is Blake Yarber from Dynasty, and you're expected to be badass. I mean, you are expected to go out there and do, you're being paid. You're either paid to be there, or somebody paid for you to go. You don't have to pay anything. So you get a free trip out of it, whatever it is that you get out of this, even, or a discounted trip, whatever it may be. But when you arrive there, you are put in a situation where you have to be the man. You got to come up with game plans. You got to help, or at least help with game plans. You're expected to shoot at least 1 or 2, maybe 3 dudes a point, or a game. Or, I mean, that's, if you're not doing that, then if you're not 10 foot tall, then people are going to be like, because, they can go get other pros. There's 200 pros in the pro league at any given time. 180 to 200 pros. All those dudes would love to go to, Venezuela to play paintball. Or they'd love to go to Australia to play paintball, or, whatever it may be. But when you get the chance to go down there, I just think it's so huge. So maybe in your own words, could you talk about what that's like? Because when we saw you play, with the Gummy Bear guys, with the ASG All-Stars, again, out of position, you're playing a different role. You were just thriving in that. Urena, I've seen a lot less Mike Urena than I have seen Blake Yarber. I've seen you play, I've seen every point of paintball that you played in the NXL and some in Europe since 2012. But less so for Mike. But you were just playing different positions. I mean, were you doing that in these different places when you're going to Australia or going down? I mean, just how much of that kind of was, helped your paintball, your development, to where you are right now in your game?
Right. You know, I got picked up by Dynasty, and with Dynasty, we have just a list of stars on the team, you know, and when I got first picked up at the team, I wasn't better than those stars. So they're going to put me into a low ranked spot. And not to say that an attacker or I was the one on the Dorito side. It's not that it's low ranked. It's just that there was people that were better doing the twos and the threes, the mental game, right? And I didn't have the mental game yet. And so on Dynasty, for the first, let's say 8 years, I was the attacker on the Dorito side, you know, and that was all instincts. I'm just playing with instincts, and I'm listening to the guys behind me kind of put plays together. Every once in a while, I'm putting a play together on the Dorito side, but mostly I'm just playing off the instincts and attacking. But when I go over into Australia, let's say, with the Expendables, I got some great attackers in Ivan and Thomas Hopkins. You know, they turned into be some threats over there, and so I felt that I could come into a spot like the back position. I have a little more experience than those guys, and I have a better gun off the break. So I started playing a lot in the back in Australia. And, you know, we're playing. I think there's 9 preliminary matches in Australia. You know, so I'm playing a ton of people out there as a number 3 in the back and learning that game. And then I'm going to down into South America playing in Colombia, and they need a snake guy, and now I'm the snake guy, you know. So I'm playing all these spots, and I'm starting to further understand this game in my mind. And that was nice, you know, because I wasn't getting those spins on Dynasty, and respectfully, you know, I was going to outperform any of those guys in the backfield.
Yeah. So just talk to me again, or tell me about this. I want to get this origin story in, just because I think it's cool. You know, it's typically the stories they're just a little bit different than this. I think that it was pretty interesting, at least the stories I've been told from the Dynasty, the Ryan Greenspans and the Rusty Glazes, and, you know, of how you got on the team. And then you've told it to me before when we've been on trips, but I feel like and I'm sure some people may have heard this before, and it's not the craziest story in the world, but I think it's a pretty good, you know, pro paintball origin story.
Yeah. Okay. So I started playing paintball, you know, and I was going through the ranks with my buddies, and that's a lie. I wasn't going through the ranks. I was stuck in D3, and I maybe played a couple events in D2, but really where the story changed for me is I started to play more pump. And Gene Stein, a guy in Chino, California, asked me to come play on his pump team, and we were only going to play pump, right? So we started playing all these pump tournaments, traveling the United States playing pump, you know, going up against the Hitmen. And the Hitmen were, at that time, were on this terror. You know, they were winning all the events. And I think the very first event that we played, we took second. And then we started winning events. And through that pump team, I met Gator Glaze. And Gator Glaze would guest with us every once in a while and play pump. And through Gator, I met Rusty. Rusty came out to coach us at a Huntington Beach, and we were playing in the pump division out there. And so that's where Rusty got eyes on me. So, you know, of all the formats to play in this game, the one that stuck, that got people's eye on me, was pump, which is kind of funny, you know, because
it doesn't normally happen.
No, not at all. So, you know, I started playing a lot with Gator, and then I was in Southern California playing with Mutiny, and we practiced against Dynasty, and you know, I got into the 50 spot a lot against Dynasty. We were practicing against Dynasty, and they bunkered me, you know, 30 points out of whatever it was, 60 points that day. But I was deep in the Doritos, and so then Rusty turns around and says, "Okay, I got this pump guy that I think we might be able to use on Dynasty." You know, that's the origin story in fast forward.
Well, when I just remember when I heard it, this is 2012, I believe, right? Like, I'm pretty sure it's 2012.
Correct.
I think World Cup 12 was your first event. Correct. With so this was your 10-year anniversary. So it was you're like, yeah, Rusty was like, in mid conversation about something. I'm paraphrasing the story, but he was like, yeah, we got this new kid we're looking at, and I'm like, okay, cool. Where'd you grab him from? And I'm thinking it's gonna be from some established divisional team, or I don't know, just like the typical place I hear where younger guys are getting on season. And he's like, you're never gonna believe it. He's a pump. He's like, maybe you, because I used to run with the Hitman dudes. I played some pump myself and played in big games. So I always respected the pump game. And he's like, yeah, he's like a pump killer. He's like a young pump killer, dude. And I was like, okay, all right, yeah, weird flex, but sweet. And then you showed up, and yeah, you were fast and aggressive, and just kept getting after it, and slowly but surely became the main go-to guy for San Diego Dynasty. How do you kind of feel? Because I feel that your game's getting very creative. You've always been, it's been there a bit, but your efficiency at the creativity has started to increase. So the way that you're kind of the route you're choosing to run, and you're playing in the middle a decent amount now. Obviously, you'll still be a threat on the D side if you. No, I like that. I like that versatility, but that middle has kind of been a home for you. Kind of talk to me about the creative nature of your game right now and how you've harnessed that creativity, and then how you're looking at the center of the field and how you've been playing there.
Okay. Even when we had Rusty on the team, I think there was one or two events that I went through the middle for Dynasty. I think we went in, this is a rough knowledge, but maybe 2017, we went to the finals with Dynasty and we played against Impact. We lost against them. I was playing in the middle. But at that time, I was less dynamic in the middle. I was more of playing a role. I was stopping whichever side I was looking at. And, if there was a body that needed to be dunked on, I would go dunk on that guy. But that was about the extent of my game. And then we went out and played in Europe with the Expendables. And for whatever reason, Ryan, I thought I was playing that Dorito side out there pretty well. But Ryan said that he wanted me to play the middle. And he wanted to give the Dorito side to Tyler. And whatever, so I started playing this middle, and it just fell into place, right? We start going against the Russians, and we had a terrible start against the Russians, but me and Tyler are starting to talk about it mid-match, and he's kind of saying, and that's their whole their mantra, Tyler and Marcelo, is play the game, right? But it was what we were talking about was you can't just be so rudimentary and single-minded. You got to start to evolve. And so I just started to make these moves through the middle, and Tyler was feeding off those moves, right? And that went into the finals. We win the event. You gave me the MVP, which was cool.
Which
and
you deserve.
That translated into down the line, people having the respect and allowing me to play more in the middle. And so I just started to play that way, and I got to play alongside Alex Rodriguez, who's really dynamic in the middle. And so I got to learn some things from him, but it's just getting in there and playing and having people that will allow you to do it. So with Rusty, Rusty was great at plugging me in, but he didn't let me get those spins on the Dorito side. I'm sorry, in the middle, and to get creative, where I feel that Skinny Kevin is letting me just get in there and figure it out. He's okay with me making some mistakes because he tells me, once you find the mistake, not to do it again, which is free, right? And that's just how the middle developed for me, I guess.
I think that it's obviously working out gloriously to the benefit of both you and the team, because you have become and also the fact that the Dynasty's getting with you playing in the center, but being able to play the D side if you need to, with Marcelo's performance on the D side, getting Dalton back, and now having Archie. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude. I don't know what line you guys are going to throw out. That's really good for you guys and scary for your opponents, because you're going to be a lot less scoutable. Yeah, you still have some specialty guys. Mike's going to be playing on the snake side of the field. That's fine. I mean, obviously Billy Bernacchi is going to be playing on the snake side of the field too, and he seems to get it done more often than he doesn't. So it's okay still in the modern game to have guys that are kind of specialty players that just play one position. But it does, as you're going to be under the microscope with your opponents and your enemies looking at every single facet of every single play that a team like Dynasty runs, because, at this stage in the game, you're probably going to have to get through Dynasty at some point in time to win the tournament. So they're going to know what you guys do. And that's one of the reasons that X Factor was able to tier up during their run, was they became less scoutable, more diverse. So it's good in so many different ways. Let's kind of go to and talk a little bit about that World Cup performance. Just because, I mean, again, yes, you had won the MVP before. It was in Europe. It was with the Expendables. It was still a badass performance, but it was kind of a sign of things to come for your game. And then, but you kind of went back to playing the D side still. I still feel like utilizing you over there occasionally is going to be a really good thing for the squad. But you just keep seeing these guys like yourself just keep getting better and better. This is one of the reasons that Dynasty is so potent right now, is that across the board, the guys that have been doing it for a long time are still elite and are trying to refine their games and stay relevant. Of course, to win the series title, 2 World Cups in a row, and 3 out of 5 is about as relevant as we can get it. But then, your game just keeps getting better and better, keep evolving. So let's talk about that World Cup performance. Going into World Cup, coming off of the big win, what was going on in your mind, and kind of what were you looking at? Obviously, you're going to win the World Cup. Correct. But then, so as far as the layout was, because you thrived on this layout. So, what were you thinking? Like you said, put the switch on and keep it there. But and I know you were hyped up for it, but take me into your mind before World Cup, the practices leading up to it, and your mindset on that layout.
I mean, it's funny to hear you say that I was dialed on this layout, because I wasn't dialed in the beginning. I was terrible. We had the first weekend of practice, we played against Uprising. And in that practice, I thought the game was going to be developing where the middle guy was going to transition over onto the snake side and add a body and start attacking with the snake guys. And so against Uprising, we did that. And I had a point late on Sunday where I shot 4 guys. Middle of the point, and which won us the point, right? And I turned around and Skinny looked at me and said, "You're going to have to play better than that." And that's late on Sunday, coming off of a practice. And so now I'm confused. I don't get it. I just shot 4 guys and won the point, and I got to play better than that. So I'm confused. We come into the next weekend against Impact, and Impact was dunking on us. I wasn't getting any traction through the middle, not like the event before. And so coming into the event of World Cup, I'm a confident player, but I still felt like the things weren't lining up in my mind, at least. And so, starting early in the matches, we played against Diesel, and Skinny wasn't happy with my performance, and nor was I. I was still kind of in that mentality where I needed to get it out of the middle and into the snake side to help my snake side. But Skinny was, I sat and watched games a lot with Skinny, and he was just basically telling me to slow it down and just play the points longer. And so coming into Sunday, I just kind of sat in the middle and watched the points develop, and then boom, there was an opening, and I take that opening. And that's really how it played down.
Well, kind of describe, I think that's a crucial part of it, though. And then there was an opening, and I took advantage of that opening. But that's the crux of your creativity. That's really a very simplified way of describing what is the difference between, the really, really good players and everybody else. Because finding those openings, because the openings are there. When I watch the game from, 15 feet in the air, and I mean, I can't see everything because of the way the bunkers are. It's not a football field. There's bunkers out there, and I got a scoreboard and camera stuff I got to look around, and I'm trying to see everything I possibly can to call the game. But, and then when you're out there playing, you can't see shit sometimes. You're getting shot at, you're screaming, everyone's yelling at you, you're trying to, and every time you come out to look, you're getting, that's a potential point you could get shot. I mean, that's what makes paintball so complex and so fun and so complicated. But there was an opening and I took advantage of it. So what are you doing to create those, in your words? What are you doing to kind of find those openings and exploit them? Because sometimes, from my view, you're bursting that opening open. Like you're being proactive to create an opening, and then other times you're reacting off an opening that exists that you just found a way to exploit that opening. You saw it somehow, some way, where not everyone's able to do that. And the best center players have that mixture of blowing it open when they need to, or, being able to risk that, to being able to push it on the gas pedal enough that you have that you can, if things go your way, you can blow that open and get a couple kills and blow open that point, or you see an opening as it develops. So talk to me a little bit about that, because I think that's the magic ticket right there.
Yeah, that's why you invited me on this, to get my secrets. That's it right there.
Yeah. Again, all your enemies, bro, are just sitting here taking notes. They're just like, and then Blake said that when it's 2-on-3, yeah.
I mean, that goes back to the switch. You can't turn a switch on if you're thinking about turning the switch on. That's terrible. But anyways, where I'm going with that is I can't be looking for a move up the middle if I'm thinking about shooting my gun on the snake side off the break. That just has to become natural. So I got to do those things in repetition and practice so that it becomes natural for me running up the middle to be shooting snake side off the break. But my eyes are doing the next step. I'm already on to the next movement. And so, how do I find those windows to get our point into that, or our team into that point is just by going through every point before it even happens. I'm practicing those points at home. I'm just making that second nature. I can walk. When you go to the mall, you're not thinking about walking. You're thinking about, okay, what do I want to buy from the store? Because walking is second nature, right? It's the same thing in paintball. I'm running up there already on to the next thought. Where's this guy? Who's trying to lay a trap for me? I'm not even shooting I'm not even looking where I'm shooting my gun sometimes. I'm already on to the next step.
But that's the stuff. And again, that's why, hey, play as much paintball as you possibly can. Play against the best players you possibly can. Intentionally put yourself into incredibly difficult situations, like having to go to another continent and be the man. All right, Blake, we're paying you to be here. So if you don't shoot two dudes a point, we're going to all be a little disappointed in you. We may not actually tell you this, but everyone's thinking that in their head, and you know it, and they know it, and everyone you're playing against knows it. And that's just how it is. So if you get, so just doing that often, and then it's like when you come on Dynasty, or when you get onto any one of these top teams, or whatever that may be, if you get on one of the top divisional teams and whatever, however you're tearing yourself up, you are expected to produce. Again, these are not, it's not supposed to be a club, not just hanging out. Like, that's fine. If you want to run your paintball team as a club where we're all just hanging out to have a good time, then that's cool. But that's not exactly, that's not going to produce wins. And if that's okay with you, then that's totally fine. Again, there's like a trillion teams at World Cup, and not everyone's. Some people are there to just crush beers in the parking lot and have a blast. But San Diego Dynasty is here to win, and San Antonio X Factor is here to win, and all these top divisional teams are here to win, and that's what makes it fun for them. So it's just been really cool, man. Let's talk a little bit about because we got about maybe 10 more minutes here before we got to sign off, but how things look for next year. They look even better than they looked this year. Yes. You guys just picked up Archie. You guys got some young blood in the mix as well, too. Again, the stability of the team now is looking good for the future with, the core guys starting Field 1 a few years ago, picking up JT as a sponsor, and bringing you and Marcelo in as owners. It's just, I really like all these moves that are being made for Dynasty. So how are you looking at 2022?
Okay. Coming out of last year, we had a great year. We won the last two events. We win the series with the players that we have. We don't lose any players. And then we get to acquire a talent like Archie Montemayor, right? And Archie, I had got to play with a year in Europe. And I really respect the guy. I respect the way that he's thinking about the game. I respect the way he plays the game. And now we get to get him on the team. That's just a major boost. And then we get this kid, which is Damian Vasquez. We brought him out to a practice, great survivability, and he just provides that youth that the team needs right now because we're getting old. We're getting frail. I'm getting frail.
I don't know about that. I mean, you guys are not as young as you were yesterday, because that's how it works. But I would not describe you as frail, bro. But that's okay.
But he seems like a sharp kid, And anyways, I just hope he comes onto the team like a sponge because he's going to get a lot of knowledge and he's going to get it quick. But it's you can only chew so much at a time. So I think he's going to develop really fast, really nicely. And we just picked up JT, which is, the origins of San Diego Dynasty, which is cool. A major boost to the team. We got some extra funds through that sponsorship to play some more paintball. And so, it's a great year to be on this team.
Yeah, it's a special era for Dynasty. It really is. It's a lot of people behind the scenes a couple years ago were kind of wondering what the future of that team was going to be, because, I mean, of course, everyone's going to wonder what the future of the team's going to be. It's the most legendary team ever to play the game. Dynasty kind of really set the bar as far as what a pro paintball team could be, and they've been around for so long. And then before the big World Cup win, I mean, the team was always relevant, and they had picked up guys, but at that, like you said, you've been on the team for 10 years. And then, they would pick guys up, but it wasn't always, the young talent didn't seem to stick. They were working on snake guys, never seemed to work out, a couple guys here or there. But even like Arturo, it's not like Arturo's 20 years old, and I love Arturo, but it's like Dynasty would go with these guys that were a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more like mental presence as far as being an adult. And, not the complete story, but it would take, a long time to tell the complete story. But this new version right now is it's been so good because like any hater that I would try to have to talk to him, but like, look, I know these guys, they're building for the future. Trust me, the team's going to be fine. And they'd be like, I don't know, Matty, I don't know. It's like, I don't know how it's going to go down. And then sure enough, it's just been magnificent for you guys since that World Cup victory. And now you guys are kind of sitting at the top of the heap right now. Not kind of, you are. Obviously, you have the impacts and you have the Heats and you have these other top teams, the San Antonio X Factors, that are going to be coming for you guys to try to knock you off that pedestal next year. Right. And then kind of one of the last questions I want to ask you before I let you go, because we all, everyone came from there. No one really, I would say this, it's like, no one, Blake Yarber, Ryan Greenspan, Marcelo Margot, you guys didn't come out of the womb professional paintball players. You had to start somewhere. And as I've been watching this game for as long as I have, it has gotten more competitive. Before it used to just be a handful of teams that now, yes, there still are just a handful of teams that are putting up wins. But it used to be just like a few of them, like one or two that had any chance of hell at winning a tournament, maybe 3 or 4, but it's just gotten more competitive. And so, what do you think about the levels, the Thunders, the ML Kings made Sunday at the last event? You have these younger teams that are starting to beat some of these top teams out here, and they're not doing it enough on a regular basis to be a presence deep into Sunday, but they're becoming a big part of the conversation here. And if they don't get chewed apart, which is always the question, it's going to be interesting to see how things move the next couple seasons. So what are your thoughts on these up and coming squads?
The ML Kings match, the ML Kings presence in World Cup was impressive. Those guys were strong. They looked great playing that event, and I do hope that they all stay together, and they're going to be a threat next year if that team stays together. They're working hard, and it just shows on the paintball field. You got Aftermath, which is proving to be a Sunday team. And they didn't even have Mike in their pits on Sunday, and Mike is a ton of knowledge for that team. Level, where did those guys come from? They turned on the Jets at the end of the season when it's the hardest, which is unbelievable. that's when everybody's becoming the most refined, and that's when they were looking the best. That was great. And the same with NRG. Those guys are tough. Yeah. I was watching some points from them, and they're starting to understand the game very well. Extreme, boy, they fell on their sword out there in World Cup, but they're no pushover.
Yeah, I think that understanding the game pretty well is kind of the takeaway there, because when you do look at, the kind of charismatic and chaotic moments in which good teams and elite players thrive, you're starting to see some of these younger teams thrive in those moments a little bit more. And that's really good to see. It was good to see the ML Kings kind of save their season by making a Sunday. They still took 10th, but it was... They are just, sometimes it's not necessarily the result. It's how like I will say sometimes, oh man, that was a good look in a loss. So you'll go look at the result and say, oh, well, they took 10th. But when you actually watch their development throughout the year, and kind of the big caveat here is if they can actually keep that team together, then yeah, they could potentially have much better showings next year. But, Diesel kind of, started strong and then faded off a little bit. I'm expecting them to have a much better season next year after learning some hard lessons. Aftermath. But then also it's like what happens in the off season. I mean, we just saw potentially the biggest move of the off season is you guys picking up Archie, but some of these other teams will be maneuvering for some of these other players. So it's just, it's going to make the 2022 season. It's interesting. Some people still ask me, well, why do you like doing this after all these years? And I don't know. I find it fascinating. It's really kind of cool to see the development of the sport and the development of these teams as it just kind of plays itself off into the future. And it's just, there's, I don't know, never really a dull moment, because there's always, an Archie waiting in the wings to go to Dynasty. And then we're just like, holy, I can't believe that just happened. How did that happen? So, yeah. Well, Blake, I really appreciate having you on the show. You are aging like a fine wine, so I don't want to hear any of this, oh, I'm getting old talk, because you're not there yet. You're in the prime of your career, dude. I'm expecting more out of you in 2022 than we saw in 2021, because it's been trending that way. Any last thoughts? I feel like I'm in the prime.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the prime of my game right now. It's been a long development, 10 years this will be my 10th season. Wow, that's impressive. It's been a great ride, and I've been enjoying every step of the way. But man, I really feel like I've found the game. So I'm excited for this year. I'm excited for this team. Jesus, what a year we're gonna have. Just everything coming together.
Well, yeah, and a lot of so I'm hearing good things about these newer players. Obviously, it's not like Archie Montemayor is a new player. Yeah, everyone knows what you're gonna get out of Archie. But some of these new guys, Vasquez, and then I think Marcelo said you guys are going to be bringing another younger guy out. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I have in my notes somewhere. He's been working for him for a little bit. Sloffer. That's it. He's not on the team yet, but is he on the team, or is he not? Still kind of practice squad status, or is he on?
Yeah, he's one of Marcelo's prospects. It's someone that Marcelo sees a lot of potential in, and so he's going to work with this kid. The kid hasn't earned his stripes yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, 2 World Cups in a row, 3 out of 5 events. It doesn't get much better than that. And then with these off-season moves, it's going to be really fun to watch San Diego Dynasty in 2022. Also, make sure to check out the first episode of 4 Sundays, which is going to be premiering December 21st. And you'll get to watch Dynasty as they catapult through the year after starting off with a pretty mediocre 10th. But then after that, it only gets better. So
hold on, I'm gonna go get some popcorn. When the 21st?
21st. Yeah,
I got a couple days.
Yeah. You're not gonna like that one though, because it's just, it starts off with your guys' battle against X Factor in the wild card round, and then that's it. You guys exit stage right, and then we don't see you again until the second episode.
That's right. You don't see us till the finish. What happens in the finish?
Yeah, that's very true. Finish strong, right? So congratulations, series champ, MVP, World Cup champion Blake Yarber with his boys San Diego Dynasty. Thank you guys so much for joining us, Blake. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure to get you on the show. And yeah, man, let's get a hike trip if we possibly can at some point in the future. That would be sweet. All right, guys, we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
To what would you give each moment in a day if you knew that you only get 4 unique and different days to shine? It is such an arbitrary number, 4, to be sure. But the parameters are set. You know the day of your execution or of your deliverance. This is a trial by combat. It's a day to define you, a day to test you, a day where all the torturous hours of training come together, where it's you, your gun, your preparation, your teammates, and your tenacity on display, dissected by your enemies with your skill, your will to win, weighed and measured. It is your chance to prove to the world that in this small slice of place and time, that you above all others are to be remembered, to be respected. In the sport of paintball, it will come down to Sunday, the holy day, and you get to earn your place in the game. And in 2021, you get 4 of these. So this is the story of many moments, but of 1 year of what happens on 4 Sundays.
So hard they have to, and they know it, right? Smart fucking paintball.
Malice is just saving the day again, and Malice gets the cross-field shot as well.
Guys couldn't make the corner like I was as consistent.
They get Konstantin Fedorov back. They have Todd Martinez as the coach. Randy Smith is intent on building a championship team.
I got the chills, and I was like, we're gonna win this tournament.
Pressure's all on them because they're number 1 team. We're the 20th place team.
Level undefeated, the number 1 seed in their division.
They have everything to lose, and we have nothing to lose.
No one can touch Dynasty here. That was a complete masterclass.
You go to bed dreaming you get to play Impact on Sunday and send them home. Then you dream you get to play Houston Heat. Who's the other Titan? Dynasty. There's no better feeling than going up against the big Titans.